I'm Yvonne Fenter. I'd like to briefly talk you through this course, how we've put it together, why we've put it together, and more importantly, the value that I feel you can take from this course once you've completed it. I've been lecturing auditing for about 7 years on various levels, right from the very first day students start studying auditing all the way through to their postgrad degree and beyond, their Board 1, Board 2, as well as on-the-job training. This means that I've got a lot of experience in understanding what it is that students battle with, what it is that they struggle to come to terms with in an exam, both in exam environments as well as on a practical on-the-job level. And I've, from this, been able to develop some methodologies that I think are quite valuable in terms of helping students build foundations and build processes to get them through these exams and make sure that they understand what they're doing. I'm one of those very strange people who have quite a passion for auditing, so I believe that my enthusiasm and optimism and my level of understanding can really assist you. I'm not going to approach this from a very theoretical level. I absolutely understand that what you need to do with this is be able to work with it on a daily basis as well as in an exam environment. So I'm not particularly interested in a lot of theory. I want to make sure that you can work with the stuff, that you can use it, that you can solve problems that you've never seen before. To this end, please understand that the exams and the sim exams I've put together are very, very much intended to be practical learning tools. This is not supposed to be an example of exactly the type of exam you'd see on the day. The levels are there, the level of application is there, the topic coverage is probably a little bit higher. This is not intended to be a spot for the exam. This is not intended to be something that you can look at and say, well, if I can pass this exam, I can pass the final board paper. There's a possibility that different types of questions can come out, different areas, different topics can come out in the exam, so please do not take this as a spot for the exam. My intention with the exam and the solution and the feedback DVD that you're going to get is to make sure that you understand why it is that you do what you do. You can build learning processes from this. You can build methodologies for yourself to make sure that you can successfully answer any question put in front of you. This is very much about helping you solve problems in an exam rather than identify a whole database of solutions for every different type of question you can come across. And this is something I find students do a lot, especially in auditing where they're not particularly comfortable with the subject. They never liked it when they were studying it. Students tend to build up databases of answers. If I see a pre-engagement question, I will always say the following things. If I see a risk question, I will always see the following things. This is largely because students, when they are studying accounting, are generally better with numbers than they are with communication. This isn't a surprise. Most of us got into our accounting studies because we were good with numbers, not communication. Now all of a sudden we throw a communication subject at you and students flounder. This makes them feel very uncomfortable. It makes them feel incompetent, and it's really not your fault. It's really not something that you are comfortable. It's not something that we are designed or in school we are taught to do properly. So we really need to understand where the weaknesses come from, and that's something that we're going to try and help you unlock as we go through this as well. Identifying your weaknesses is something that's a little bit scary, but it has to be done. To begin with, when you write this exam under proper exam conditions, I want you to identify what it is that made you feel uncomfortable when you were writing. Was it the level of complexity that bugged you? Was it the form of communication that bugged you? Was it the fact maybe that the mark plan or the exam looked a little different to stuff you've seen in the past? Was it the industry that bugged you? Was it the amount of information that bugged you, or one particular type of information that triggered a question that you don't like dealing with? Identify what it is that your weaknesses are in that exam environment so that you can start fixing what goes wrong while you are writing the exam. A lot of students walk out of the exam saying things like, it's not fair, they couldn't have asked that, they shouldn't have asked that, we've never seen questions like that before. The reality is that as a professional, I expect to be able to send you out into any environment, any situation, anywhere in the world, and know that you have a certain amount of basic skills that you can tear apart any solution, or you can tear apart any problem and start creating a solution from. And this is what I'm intending to examine here. I want to know whether you can identify the issues properly. If you're incapable of identifying the issue properly, it means that your solution is never going to be appropriate. So the starting point for me is always, do students actually understand what the problem is? Have they really identified the crux of the issue here? Because if you identify the core of the problem, you can start creating solutions from the enormous amount of theory and the enormous amount of knowledge that you have. So my starting point is, did you get it? Did you really understand what it was that I was saying in that case study? Did you really visualize the problem first? The marking, when you go through those marks that you didn't get, a lot of students focus on the marks that they did get. Look, I got 49, I got 48, I got 50, I got 52. I'm not interested in the marks that you did get. I'm interested in the marks that you didn't get. We cling to the marks that we did get because we need some kind of comfort. We want to build confidence. We want some level of comfort to say we're okay. The problem is that when you focus on what you already are doing right, you're not fixing the stuff that you're not doing right. I'm really not that interested in the marks that you do get from this. What I'm interested in is the areas that it indicates that you're battling with. I want to know whether or not we can break down those topics and say, all right, your risk assessment is not so great, and for that reason your procedures are probably not going to be great either. So the intention for me is to identify why it is that you're not getting those marks. What is it that's holding you back from those marks? The feedback DVD is split between exam technique areas as well as the exam itself. There are certain areas I know students battle with a lot that I've developed specific methodologies that I'm hoping can help you. Take a look through them. Sometimes it's as simple as seeing something again in a slightly different way, having someone different explain it to you that triggers a realization and an enlightenment of what it is that you're dealing with. So the feedback DVD mainly is going to take you through that exam and identify and highlight the types of things I wanted you to see, I wanted you to pick up so that you can get better solutions. And this again is not mainly for this exam, but is intended to give you an indication of the way that I'd like you to be thinking about things for the future and future exams that you write. Find a solution for the weaknesses that you have. Most of this comes down to doing questions. A lot of students go back to theory because they're comfortable with having specific formulae, they're comfortable with having specific formats and theory at their fingertips. That's great. The problem is, do you know what to do with that theory in different environments? And this is the problem. I need to know that any set of theory you're given, you can use and you can apply to different types of questions. I tell students to study theory through the questions. If you're battling with a theory on a particular topic, go and find a question on that topic. Do the question and then close the theory gaps once you have finished the question. We tend to limit the time that we spend doing questions. So we'll do this under exam conditions and we'll limit the time. But the theory can run away with us. We can spend hours going back to accounting standards, to auditing standards, and study the theory. And a lot of students make this mistake. I need to make sure, and you need to make sure, that on that day you are very comfortable with taking that theory and applying it to the questions. And the only way you can do this is by actually doing questions. That being said, I hope you take this very positively. I know that the exam itself may be difficult, it's uncomfortable, it's not nice to always be focusing on our weaknesses, but if we don't identify the weaknesses and strengthen them, then chances are they're going to continue to remain weaknesses. So let's take what we can from this, make sure that you go through this properly with a positive frame of mind, and I really hope that this will help you be successful at the end of the day.